Hello and welcome. In this video I want to tell you why the field engineer needs to be reworked. If you have played the field engineer yourself, you have probably noticed that there are several big problems which make it really unrewarding to play the field engineer. I want to present these problems and also talk about possible solutions. The first problem, and also a problem that can easily be fixed by the developers, is that the field engineer does not have a secondary weapon. So whenever you're low on stamina and try to block a hit, you will get disarmed, leaving you pretty much defenseless. Giving the field engineer a secondary weapon would not make him overpowered by any means. It would simply make the class a little bit easier to play, and it would help out a lot of players who are not able to counter pretty much every single hit so they don't lose stamina. And on top of that, there are even weapons already in the game that would suit the engineer pretty well, like the hatchet or the knife. Now let's get to the second problem. The engineer has below average weapons. Every single weapon of the engineer has a short reach and does not cleave. Even the pickaxe, which belongs to the weapon type chop, does not cleave with light attacks for some reason. And now if you combine no secondary weapon with a below average primary weapon, playing as an engineer is just unnecessarily difficult. And of course it makes sense that the engineer's weapon is not as good as the other classes' weapons, since the engineer can place a lot of structures which the other classes cannot do. But overall just something needs to change here. And I personally think that the weapons of the engineer are fine as long as the engineer gets a secondary weapon. And if this doesn't happen, the weapons of the engineer should at least get a little bit more reach. And yes, if you want to try hard and sweat, you still can pick up a better weapon from the ground. Alright, now let's jump to the third problem. The walls of the engineer do not give any score. So even if you placed them in a way that annoyed the enemy so much that they had to destroy them, you don't get rewarded for it. And in contrast to that, the enemy who destroys your walls will get score points. So overall it just doesn't make any sense. And it also discourages some players because they will probably end up pretty low on the scoreboard. The next problem is that walls oftentimes don't secure objectives. In this example you can see that I can just jump over the wall, hold my E button and still interact with the objective when I land. So walls oftentimes completely don't serve any purpose. And of course, whenever you have to actually block a path of the enemies, walls make sense. But wherever there is an objective which you have to interact with, your enemies will just jump and still be able to interact with it. And of course you can place your structures further away, but this will also make it easier for the enemies to just run around your walls. Possible solutions to this problem could be to disable the ability to interact with objectives while jumping, or maybe even disable the enemies from interacting with objectives when there is a wall nearby. But overall this definitely needs to change. Problem 5. Being able to carry 2 walls at a time is not enough. Enabling the engineer to carry around 4 walls with him would not make him overpowered. At the moment he can just carry up to 2 walls with him and place a total of 4 walls. But most of the time, whenever you already place your 2 walls and go up to a supply crate to get another set of walls, by the time you have returned, your 2 initial walls are already destroyed. This makes it really unrewarding to play the field engineer, and I don't think that being able to carry around 4 walls at a time would make him overpowered. It would just make him more rewarding to play and would make him a little bit stronger. And you also wouldn't have to spend so much time running between the choke points and supply crates, since you could just place your 4 walls and stay there to protect them. Problem number 6. Spikes break too fast and can't be resupplied. Most of the time your spikes will already break after being hit 2 times. So even a single enemy just needs roughly 1 second to advance. And this kind of destroys the purpose of the engineer. You won't be able to hold a choke point for a really long time if you're also using spikes. And even your walls are not really good HP wise, since a single player can probably destroy them in like 3 seconds and a group of players will destroy them in less than 1 second. But in every defense your spikes are your weak point and you can't even resupply them, so that's pretty bad and should be changed. Another problem that bothers a lot of players is that the engineer cannot repair anything. He cannot repair his own structures and he can also not repair objectives. If engineers could repair objectives, for example by hitting them as I'm showing here in this clip, games would have way more tactics involved and engineers would become actually important. You would have to protect your own engineers and go for the enemy's engineers. And the last problem is that the damage of the bear trap is too low and the bear trap can also not be resupplied. Since it is not possible to resupply the bear trap, it would really make sense to make it a little bit stronger. And not only does it just deal 50 damage, it is also really easy to spot by your enemies. So overall the bear trap should deal more damage or the engineer should be able to resupply it. Alright, that's it for my video. Please subscribe to my channel, it would really help me out. And let's hope that the developers make the engineer rewarding and fun to play. As always, thanks for watching and see you on the battlefield.